can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, today I want to get on here and talk about how I think Kawaki actually got his karma seal, which is an absolute surprise in itself. If you guys haven't necessarily been keeping up with the Boruto manga, in chapter 65, the most recent chapter that released 7 days ago, Kawaki actually showed that he had a karma seal, and not only a karma seal, what actually appears to be a brand new dojutsu, essentially an eye. Now the overall question for the past week is, of course, how in the world did Kawaki get a karma seal, and when did Kawaki actually get the karma seal? Now me personally, I think it was very self-explanatory. While the actual reveal of Kawaki's karma seal, they're playing simultaneously Amado actually offering Kawaki a karma seal. But here's the key thing: once Kawaki actually did hear that from Amado, he completely and immediately dismissed it. Not only once but multiple times, essentially saying that he did not want the karma seal. Now specifically back in chapter 59, Amado actually offered Kawaki a karma seal. He essentially told Kawaki that the karma seal would work just as a weapon. Because Ishiki Otsutsuki is not alive, he wouldn't necessarily have any threat of his body being taken over by another Otsutsuki member. Now this right here was very significant in itself, mainly because we understand Kawaki at that particular point was going through a very big rough patch. As I said, he lost to Shinki, he lost to Boruto, and not only that, tensions were extremely high, mainly because we understand that Code was going to be stronger than Naruto, and Kawaki's main objective was going to be to actually protect Naruto. So of course, if he can't really protect Naruto from Code, there is a problem right then and there. And we actually did see Kawaki's actual intentions in this episode when he asked Amado if Naruto could actually beat Code in a 1v1. Amado told him no. Alright, so here's where Kawaki actually got the karma seal, and looking back, to be honest, I'm kind of surprised that no one really found this out, and I think no one really thought of this like correctly, mainly because it's like part of the manga and how weird it's kind of structured. But essentially at the end of chapter 60, Kawaki was having a flashback. This is like the third flashback of like Amado actually offering the karma seal to Kawaki. And then he essentially says in a flashback, says, "Give me a break, I don't need no karma." But now present day Kawaki, he essentially says at that time, there's still one thing that I can do to protect the Konoha and Lord Seventh. Now at this particular time, I wasn't necessarily very astute in my actual analysis of the chapter. This right here, "Give me a break, I don't need no karma," is essentially written with black backgrounds. Every single time that we have actually seen a black background, it's essentially symbolizing that it's a flashback. So Kawaki says, "Give me a break, I don't need no karma," prior to him actually saying, there's still one thing that I can do to protect the Konoha and Lord Seventh. And I believe that at this particular time, this is exactly when Kawaki went to go actually get the karma seal. And I want to point something out. This right here is very important. The next chapter, chapter 61, it starts in a completely different setting, essentially meaning that there was a gap in time between when Kawaki was going to sleep right next to Naruto and in the morning when he's just chilling alongside Shikadai, Inojin, and Boruto playing some video games. Again, there is a huge gap in time when the chapter ends, chapter 60 specifically, and where chapter 61 actually starts. I believe right then and there, Kawaki actually gained his karma seal. Now real quick, later on in chapter 61, we also seen Amado, and lo and behold, Amado was actually talking about Kawaki's willingness to do anything for Naruto himself. And of course, he was talking to Shikamaru when he was speaking about these things. Just to set up the conversation real quick, Shikamaru was essentially grilling Amado about this all being a part of his plan, and Amado was essentially saying that none of this could actually be predicted. Like even 6 months ago, he didn't really think that he'd be in the Konoha 6 months ago, and he didn't necessarily think that he'd be being protected and being the right hand man of Naruto 6 months ago. But here's where things really got interesting in regards to Kawaki. He says, "But Kawaki was the most unexpected. I didn't think he'd become so devoted to Lord Hokage. The core motivation behind all of his actions now is Lord Hokage." He then goes on to explain, perhaps because he hasn't really known parental love, if it's for Lord Hokage, he likely won't balk at paying any price. Essentially saying and kind of hinting towards the fact that if it was for the Hokage, Kawaki would swallow his pride on something as big as even the karma seal to actually protect Naruto. This right here, in my personal opinion, again, just my opinion, confirms it in my head. Like, Kawaki got his karma seal right before this chapter, right in the gap of at the end of chapter 60 and at the beginning of chapter 61, because they were talking about it in this particular episode right here. And not only that, directly after this chapter, Kawaki leaves the Hidden Leaf Village in search for Code right after getting his karma seal back. Now another thing that was very important, some of you guys might be asking, Baara, how come Kawaki changed his mind so quickly? It was like obviously no, and now he's actually getting the karma seal. Well, here's the thing. in chapter 60, there was a huge, and I mean huge, come to light moment for Kawaki. Kawaki was literally sitting there depressed. He was actually contemplating leaving the village. Naruto came up to him, reassured him, picked him up on his shoulder. Kawaki probably didn't like that, had him come home. They had a big dinner for Kawaki, literally gave him a shinobi headband at that same dinner and said, "You're going to be a shinobi." And of course, at that particular moment, Kawaki felt the most love that he's ever felt before. So at that particular moment, he probably thought, I hate the karma seal, but my love for Naruto is a lot stronger than my hate for the karma seal. And I believe that right there is what actually triggered the change in decision makings for Kawaki. Now, I'm pretty sure another big question is going to be, where was Kawaki's surveillance? In this chapter and in chapter 61, a big theme throughout the whole entire thing was the fact that Kawaki and Boruto were being surveilled literally 24/7. They couldn't really get out of surveillance. One of the biggest things that a lot of people don't necessarily realize is that Kawaki, he had access to Amado. He could have literally just went to Amado's laboratory and actually got the karma seal. We've seen Kawaki and Amado literally in the same room before, and the person that was actually surveilling Kawaki wasn't actually in the room. So even though there's someone actually tailing Kawaki, they're not necessarily side by side to Kawaki as to where he has to go, like literally in every single room that Kawaki goes. No, he's just observing Kawaki and seeing exactly where he is. So of course, that person most likely did not actually get to see Kawaki actually obtaining the karma seal and potentially a dojutsu at that particular point. This right here will also answer multiple questions. I believe one of the biggest questions that a lot of people did have was, why in the world was Kawaki able to actually mask his chakra? If you guys don't necessarily know this, even S-rank sensory ninjas weren't necessarily able to sense Kawaki's chakra, and we thought that this right here might have actually been one of his Otsutsuki abilities. It turns out that if hypothetically Kawaki at this particular point did actually have the karma seal, we were absolutely right. It 100% was an Otsutsuki ability, and he was able to use it because he had the karma seal. Now, not only that, we also have to take into account something else absolutely huge, and I think a lot of people are kind of underrating this in terms of the search with the actual karma seal. He gained a new eye. Now, a lot of people are still kind of hesitant about calling it a new eye. I think it's a new eye, and to be honest, I think it's going to be a scientific eye. I want to make another video about specifically why I think it's a scientific eye, but I personally believe that he got that same exact upgrade when he did actually go get the karma seal. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below, and let me know what you guys think about my ideas in the comment section below. Do you guys think that he got it at the end of chapter 16, at the beginning of chapter 61? Let me know what you guys think. It's been your boy Baara, and we out.
It's a knife.